Hello beautiful people, and welcome back to the channel. Good morning, happy Saturday. I hope y'all are having a great day. This is like my third time filming this video, and the third time better be the charm, but I told y'all I was going to post this video no matter what. And today we are finally doing our book and breakfast Black author spotlight, and today we're going to be talking about the beautiful Kennedy Ryan. I fell in love with Kennedy Ryan's writing right at the end of 2022, and I haven't gotten off the train. Kennedy Ryan's books are a train that you hop onto and you can't get off of. And so I wanted to pretty much design this entire video around Kennedy Ryan and my love for her books, and just sharing all of her accomplishments and my favorites as well. So you know how we do here. I got breakfast for you, I got books, and we're going to do a little library haul at the end as well. So if you're interested in sticking to this Black author spotlight featuring Kennedy Ryan, just keep on watching. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and get into this recipe. We're doing pancakes today, sweet potato pie pancakes to be exact. So I'm gonna go ahead and start mixing up my dry and wet ingredients, and we're gonna start with the dry. We've got some flour. I'm gonna add some baking powder as well as baking soda. Those are the ingredients that are going to get this nice and fluffy. And then I'm also going to go ahead and add a little bit of salt as well as my spices for this. So sweet potato pie, I want this to taste like fall, so I add about 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and then I also go ahead and add a teaspoon of nutmeg as well as 3 tablespoons of sugar, because you don't want these pancakes to be too sweet. And alternately, you can just add about 3 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice from the store, and that will work just as well, just FYI. And then we're going to start working on our wet. I have some already baked off sweet potatoes. Listen, I detest when I see people boiling sweet potatoes. Don't do that. You're getting rid of all of the flavor of the sweet potato. I like to bake mine in the oven with some salt, pepper, and olive oil for about an hour-ish, basically until you see the syrup and the sweet potatoes weeping out and the skin starts to separate. And once you let them cool, it literally takes nothing to get the skin off the sweet potatoes. I add them to a bowl and I just go ahead and mix them up just like that. Then this way they keep their natural sweetness and you don't have to add a crap ton of sugar to your recipes. I'm going to go ahead and add some buttermilk. This is what makes these pancakes just nice and unctuous and super fluffy. And then I'm also going to add in 2 eggs. We've also got some melted butter and some vanilla. The vanilla is important. I've done this without the vanilla. It don't taste the same. So about 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and then we're going to mix that up until everything is nice and combined. And now we're going to add our wet to our dry. I'm going to start off just whisking this with a fork to get everything nice and incorporated. And then I'm going to go in with my rubber spatula just to get all of the remaining bits off the bottom of the bowl and fold everything in nicely. You don't want to overmix this because if you overmix it, then you'll get really chewy, dry pancakes. And we don't want chewy, dry pancakes. And then I had to go take a break and make sure the dogs weren't getting in trouble. So there's Copper and there's Hank. And yes, I did wash my hands after I went and played with the pups. So I'm going to go ahead and get out my griddle. You can do this in a skillet if you want to. I prefer to use my griddle because there's more surface area and therefore this goes by way faster. I'm going to go ahead and set that to about 375. and I'm going to melt some butter onto the griddle. You want to make sure you're melting that butter down onto the griddle. That is going to help you get those nice crispy edges on your pancakes. And then you're just going to go ahead and start adding ladlefuls. I like to use like a small ladle to add these to the griddle, and you're going to go ahead and let these cook off. And I don't know, like it seems like pancakes kind of mystify people sometimes, so I decided to just show the process of a few of them cooking. And I also just love to watch the sped up process of things cooking. Is that weird? I don't know. But you want to leave these alone, and you can see as these are cooking, they're going to start forming little bubbles. As those bubbles start forming, that's letting you know that the pancake is actually starting to get cooked on the inside. You want to let these cook until you kind of see all of these bubbles kind of dry up and you don't see any wetness from the batter on the outside of the pancake. If you flip it before it looks like the end result, almost like right here, they're not going to be crispy, okay? So you want to wait until those pieces are kind of dry on the top, and when you flip them, look at that, beautiful golden edges, nice and crispy. And I didn't flip the other side because this particular griddle, one side is hotter than the other, so that's why. So while these are sitting here and cooking and we're watching yum yums being made, I just wanted to talk about Kennedy Ryan for a little bit. I felt like I have really wanted to spotlight authors, and especially with this surge in book talk and Black romance book talk specifically. There's been a lot of discussion about Black authors, Black romance, and just a lot of the misconceptions behind Black romance and the types of writing that Black authors do. And although Kennedy Ryan doesn't specifically just write Black romance, I feel like Kennedy Ryan in herself is just someone to watch as an author. She's incredibly thorough. Her stories are captivating. She does so much research and is so incredibly dedicated to her work and her characters, as well as her audience. And she is here for the ladies, but also here for the Black girls, okay? And here for us getting our happy endings, no matter who those happy endings are with. And so I felt like I wanted to start off with Kennedy Ryan because she is someone who, rightfully so, has achieved so much, I would say, especially over the last year, although she has been around for some time. Her backlist is crazy, but she is now being traditionally published all over the place and being greenlit for television and film. And I'm so incredibly proud of her. And so therefore I wanted to not only dedicate a video, but also pull a recipe that is inspired by one of her books that we'll be talking about later. But this recipe, although it is my own, it was inspired by a recipe that is in one of her books and is also chilling in the back. She has a recipe in the back of that book specifically. But this is how they turn out. Because of the sweet potato added, they do get like a little bit flatter than they usually are. But these are beautiful. They're golden brown and crispy, and the flavor is just insane. And every time I make these, my family goes crazy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. Let's get into Before I Let Go and all things Kennedy Ryan. Okay guys, so that was it for the cooking portion of this video. That recipe was one that was inspired by one of Kennedy Ryan's books, but it is one that I just modified my own recipe. So I will have my own buttermilk pancake recipe down in the description box below, and it will also feature that sweet potato pie addition to it as well. But let's go ahead and talk about what book this recipe was inspired by. Many were introduced to Kennedy Ryan via her Hoops trilogy, but I actually started with one of her newest releases, and that is Before I Let Go. This was one of my favorite reads of 2022, and I think it's honestly, truth be told, one of my favorite books just in general, and one of the books that I highly suggest you start with if you're trying to get into Kennedy Ryan. If you love Black romance, you love second chance romance, if you love to get a little bit down and dirty and gritty and emotional with your characters, but you appreciate an author that knows how to put you back together, then you have to get into this book. This is the love story of Yasmin and Josiah. Yasmin and Josiah had a very young, quick, deep, loving bond. They married, they had children together, but later on in their marriage, they went through several difficulties that caused them to split up, including the death of a family member as well as a miscarriage. And the difficulties around miscarriage, postpartum, grief, instantly separated this couple and what they thought would be something that would be definite. When we are introduced to Yasmin, she is 2 years post her divorce. She is seeking therapy, and she is in a place in her life where she feels like she is finally ready to just figure out who she is post miscarriage, figure out who she is post divorce. And this is a difficult time for her because although she is truly coming into her own and she is figuring out who she is now as a former wife and a mom, she is also having to deal with moving on from the great love of her life and also watching that love of her life move on as well. But at some point, Yasmin decides she doesn't want to move on and she wants to fight for her marriage and get her man back. I absolutely loved Yasmin's story. I will say Josiah will make you a little mad, okay? He's a black man. He's a black man, okay? But I absolutely fell in love with Yasmin as a character, and I just fell in love with her story. This book is so just incredibly real and raw, from the way that we see these characters processing grief to the way that it affects their parenting, and the way that it affects their dating lives later on, and also the discussions with Black people in general, but especially Black men seeking help, seeking counseling, and seeking therapy. This was just so incredibly well done. I don't want to say I had fun reading this, but I was immediately enthralled by page 1. Just immediately, as soon as I hit page 1, I was like, oh, I am going to love this. Another aspect of Kennedy Ryan's writing that I love specifically is the way that she often describes and uses food to connect to her characters and connect her characters to their family. And that is why I was so heavily inspired to make our breakfast today from Book and Breakfast. As we see Yasmin go through this journey of reconnecting with her children, and reconnecting with Josiah, she uses his aunt's recipes in order to reconnect with her family. They are 2 restaurateurs, and so they have a very deep connection with food. And as she continues to grow within this journey, you see her taking her cookbook out and experimenting with recipes and foods that she hasn't had since the loss of that aunt. It really does solidify her place and make her feel like she truly does have a place within her family, and truly reconnects her with her children as well as her ex-husband. It's just a beautiful thing to see, and I also just love the way that Kennedy Ryan describes food. We also see this in some of her other books too. But I am absolutely 100% in love with this story. I think that it is one of the best books to start with if you're trying to figure out where you want to start in your journey with Kennedy Ryan. Of course, make sure you are reading your trigger and content warnings. Oftentimes, Kennedy Ryan's books do deal with heavy topics, and this is no different. It's raw, it's real, and you're gonna feel it. So make sure you check those content warnings before diving in. But this story is just absolutely one of my favorites. And I really hope that you guys, if you have not read this, I hope that you guys get into it. And also, of course, a shout out and congratulations to Kennedy Ryan, because Before I Let Go has been greenlit for, I believe, TV adaptation. So it has been greenlit for a series, of course, with all the things going on. Right now we're in a writer's strike. We don't know when new things will be happening, but that is such a wonderful accomplishment. And I think that this is one of those stories that absolutely deserves to be on TV, on film, somewhere on somebody's screen. Of course, anything Kennedy Ryan must discuss this trilogy right here. This is the Hoops trilogy. This is a sports romance trilogy, but it is not any regular sports romance. And I almost hesitate to just call this a sports romance in general, because this just covers so much more, especially Long Shot. This is probably one of the heaviest books I've ever read, and I would easily say one of the most life-changing books that I've ever read. This is the story of Iris Dupree. At the beginning of the book, Iris and August have a chance encounter at a bar. August is currently playing on an NCAA team and is getting ready for his tournament tomorrow. And he runs into Iris at a bar while she is watching a Lakers game. He is instantly enthralled with her. But little does he know, Iris is actually currently dating one of his NCAA rivals, Caleb. Caleb is not the good guy in this story. There is no way to paint this man as the good guy. But in their world, everyone sees him as the golden boy. He is the guy to watch. He's successful. On paper, he seems like the kind of guy that any woman would want. And he is very much possessive and controlling of Iris. And after some very difficult circumstances, she ends up fully in his orbit, and she ends up in an incredibly toxic and insidiously abusive relationship with this man. I specifically don't like to call this necessarily a sports romance, because this truly is the survival story of Iris. Throughout the first half of the book, we only see Iris and August really have these encounters with one another maybe like 4 to 5 times within the first 50% of the book. But the majority of this book is the things that go from very subtle, the love bombing, all of these things that quickly turn into possessive and immediately turn into aggressive. This is very heavy. There is a lot of graphic violence in this book, and if that is not something that you can do, I do not suggest picking this up. But if it is something that you have read before and you think that you will be fine, I highly suggest this, because it is truly life-changing. The thing that I really appreciate about this, outside of the bomb that is August West and the way that he loves Iris, is that one, Iris saves herself. She is not waiting on a man to save her. And while August is a safe place for her, he never takes it upon himself to be the hero in her story. He's more of a guardian, you know? But you can also very much tell that Kennedy Ryan does her research, and that is something that I so deeply appreciate about her as an author, is that every book that she writes, you can tell she does the research. She doesn't just get on a computer. She talks to people. She interviews people. And in the author's notes and the content warnings in this book, she does discuss how she did speak at length with domestic violence victims before writing this story, because she didn't want this to be some sensationalized, romanticized story of domestic abuse. And that is something that I absolutely love about Kennedy Ryan. This, while so heartbreaking, is something that will also really like pick you up and put you back together in the most beautiful way. And while Iris's story is incredibly sad and very tragic, you can't help but, one, root for her, but two, also root for her second chance at love. This is just beautiful. It's heart-wrenching. It's gut-wrenching. And it was one of those books where, as heavy as it was, I just couldn't put it down. The rest of the series is emotional as well and does deal with some heavy topics, but the other two are not nearly as heavy as Long Shot is. The second book in the series is Block Shot. This is about Jared and Banner. Jared is the stepbrother of August, who we meet in Long Shot. And this is another second chance romance. You guys know I love me some second chance romance. Jared and Banner were friends turned almost lovers in college, but after a horrible prank that was pulled on Banner, she completely shuts Jared out, moves on with her life, and doesn't see him again until later on when we get into this book. And Jared and Banner are reunited, but the only thing is, Banner is currently in a relationship, and Jared doesn't give a fuck. And he straight up tells her, I know that's your boyfriend, but I just don't care. Jared wanted his second chance, and he said he was gonna get it. Jared has all of the white man audacity. I ate every second of that shit up. I did. Because as frustrating as Jared is, and as complicated as it is to read a cheating trope, you can't help but love Jared. And I also equally love Banner. I feel like this is a couple that is very much equally yoked. And while they were in the wrong, the other guy in this situation isn't 100% in the right either. You do have some mentions of some very difficult medical trauma in here as well. So be aware of that. And of course, there is some fat phobia because we do have a plus size FMC in this, but it was really, really good. And I think a much needed release after Long Shot. And then last but not least, we do have Hookshot, which is the third book in the Hoops series. This is about Lotus and Keenan. We meet both of them in Long Shot as well as, and we also see both of them a little bit in Block Shot as well. Y'all, I love me some August West, but Keenan, that's my man. Okay, that's my man. August is like White Knight Guardian type. Keenan is like a warm, soft weighted blanket. Okay, this again is not as heavy as Long Shot, but we do deal with some difficult topics. And if you have read Long Shot, you already know what those difficult topics are going to be to an extent. And so Lotus is the cousin of Iris. They grew up together, and Lotus has a very difficult history. She's currently in a place where she dates a lot. She has a very active sex life. Like, she out there, she's a baddie, but she very much avoids intimacy as a result of those childhood traumas. Insert Keenan. Lotus and Keenan met long before, early in the Long Shot days when August and Iris were just getting together. He's been obsessed with her for a couple of years now, but she just has not given him the time of day. Keenan is a single parent. He is recently divorced, and he has just moved to New York to be closer to his daughter while she is going through the difficulties of watching her family not just break up, but watching all of it take place on a national scale. And while he's there, he gets this opportunity to work with a fashion company to be one of their ambassadors. And of course, that fashion company happens to be the company that Lotus is working for. And this brings them into each other's orbit full steam ahead. And Lotus decides to finally take that jump to start healing some of those past traumas that she thought she dealt with, and also give Keenan the chance to be the safe place that she needs. And boy, does he do that. It is so good. Keenan is just so precious. This is an age gap. Keenan is significantly older than Lotus, but not too much. Lotus is in her 20s. Keenan is in his 30s. But because he knows all of the things that he's done wrong in previous relationships, he really uses that as a guide and allows himself to be more of a safe place for Lotus and allows her to feel as if she can open up to him and feel like she can be intimate with him. And it's just a beautiful thing to see. I think just in general, we don't necessarily always get that really soft man, you know, like, yeah, is he a little possessive? Is he a little grumpy at times? Absolutely. But Keenan has a softness that so deeply matches those sharp edges that Lotus has. And I just ate it up. I love me some Keenan. Keenan Ross is my man, okay? This was another amazing one. I was really excited to get to Keaton and Lotus's story, and it did not disappoint. This one also deals with heavy topics. You gotta read content warnings with Kennedy Ryan. And this one, she makes it really easy for you because even though the majority of those things for Lotus are mentioned off page, there is one specific chapter in this book that does give you on page what happened to her, and it is very much skippable. So do know that if you do choose to pick this up, you can easily skip that chapter, and it's not going to alter your reading experience at all. So yeah, that is the Hoops trilogy. These are amazing, and I did want to talk about them because they are currently in the process of being traditionally published by Bloom Books. I believe Longshot just hit shelves, I want to say like a week or two ago. And Blockshot, I want to say, comes out next month, and then Hookshot right after. And the covers are beautiful, and they all have those floral covers that match and identify with the character in the book as well. So I do plan on picking up all three of the traditionally published versions, and I think I'm going to try to do a giveaway with all three of them as well. But these are amazing, and if you do love the illustrated covers, she is selling them on her website, just a FYI. And if you've been around for any amount of time when it comes to the bookish space, and you know that Kennedy Ryan is true to this, she is not new to this, and so her backlist is extensive. I did recently pick up the Kingmaker duet that was also recently traditionally published by Bloom Books, and this consists of the Kingmaker as well as the Rebel King. And I believe this is kind of like a rivals to lovers between the heir to a development company and an activist. So I'm going to be working on these. I've been trying to get to these, but I've just been kind of reading very slowly. I've had a lot going on recently, so I haven't been reading as quickly as I usually do, but I do plan on reading these in September. And she also has her Soul series that is being traditionally republished and recovered. I don't know if the Grip trilogy is getting traditionally published, but I feel like it will be because she said there's more stuff coming. So 9 times out of 10, it's probably also going to get traditionally published. But to see this much success from a Black author, and especially a Black author of her quality, her grace, like Kennedy Ryan, and I know this from experience, is such a kind individual. If you have ever had the opportunity to interact with her, either via socials or in person, you know she is just a genuinely sweet, kind person, and she is just dedicated to her stories, and she is dedicated to her audience, and I just love that. And so I wanted to really highlight and spotlight her success and let her know that we are so damn proud of her. So that is it for our portion of the Black Author Spotlight. I want to know down in the comments, what are your favorite Kennedy Ryan titles? Eventually I'm going to have all of them in my collection, and I definitely want to get some special editions in my collection as well. And she also does have book 2 in the I think it's called the Skyland, technically the Skyland series, but it's going to be, book 2 is going to be Soledad's book. We did meet Soledad in Before I Let Go, and the title was just recently revealed, and it is going to be called This Could Be Us. So y'all know Book Talk is going to be running that song up. I'm just saying, like, we're already ready for the release. I would love to know what other Black, especially Black indie authors, you think that we should spotlight on the channel. I feel like I definitely want to do one on Alexandria House, because me and Alexandria House books have been like this. So I'm thinking maybe around like November, December, we can do an Alexandria House one. Let me know what you guys think about these and if you like that format. And let's go ahead and just do a really quick library haul. I stay in my local library, and the more I request and the more I go in there and the more I read, the more they have titles that I love. And I'm with that. Specifically in my town, my library stays packed. And so I just love to go in there and just get all my goodies, even though I still be spending money though. Don't judge me. First thing I found, I always like to go in and whatever new Black fantasy books have come out, I just like to request them. Because for a while there, we didn't really have any Black fantasy in my library, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep requesting this shit until they put it on the shelf. And they have been listening. So they finally got The Battle Drum by Sarah El-Arifi. This is book 2 in the Ending Fire trilogy. I actually have, you can't see it, but I have book 1, The Final Strife, above my head sitting on the shelf. And I love that book, and I have been salivating to get into book 2. Goodness, all the things that I could say about this trilogy. This literally has everything. This is a Black sci-fi fantasy that also has some nods to Arab and Middle Eastern culture as well as West African folklore. It's also incredibly diverse. It is sapphic. We have bi characters. We have trans characters. I mean, this encompasses everything. This is also a heavy read though. Like, this series in general is just heavy, especially with the ways that the lower classes within the society are treated. So know that going into it, you definitely want to check triggers. But this story is amazing, and I can't wait to see what happens. I feel like we're going to be introduced to so many more people, because she's thick. And I know we're getting ready to go on an adventure from the end of the first book. So I'm ready to see what happens. And a little romance. I wanted to pick this up. I think I'm going to end up putting this as well as the first book in the series on my shelf. But I read the first book from the library, went ahead and requested this one as well. This is X's and O's by Amy Leah, and this is the second book in her influencer series. So what I love about these is that they really do go into like that influencer culture and life, but I feel like it's one of the few books that does it in a way that isn't cheesy or overall just like kind of demeaning to the culture. Like, everybody thinks that people who do influencing is literally just like Michaela Nogueira or Jaclyn Hill, and it's like, influencing is so much more than the 2-3 people that you see on the internet, right? Everyone hears influencing and says James Charles, and that's how a lot of authors tend to write. And I really appreciate that is not how this author writes. This is about Trevor, and we met him in book 1, and he is a firefighter, and I believe he is like the roommate to the male main character in book 1, Set on You. So I'm really excited to see this. I also just love books that have firefighter MMCs. I also want more books that have more firefighter FMCs, because they are baddies, okay? That's besides the point. I feel like literally, like, I've never met a fireman that I didn't like, okay? They're the nice ones. Like, they're the nice ones. Like, literally, when we had to call 911 for my mom a month ago, the fire and rescue that came first, because they sent them because EMS was really far out, they did more than EMS did. So I love reading like firefighter romances because they be cute. I also picked up a little Zora Neale Hurston. I picked up Hitting a Straight Lick with a Crooked Stick. I've been meaning to read this, and I just haven't gotten around to it. I love me some Zora. I've already started reading this. The first story in this already made me cry like a baby. This is a collection of 9 short stories, which were rediscovered, re-edited, and then comprised into this kind of omnibus situation. Their Eyes Were Watching God is like, it's a classic for a reason, and it's one of my favorite classics, and Zora can just do no wrong to me. I really enjoyed this so far. I am on the 3rd story in the book. which is called A Bit of Our Harlem. But the first two in here were really, really good. But the first book the first story in general, just like literal tears. Zora was making points and spitting facts. That's all I'm gonna say. I saw it in the library, and I remembered a lot of people talking about this back when it came out, but I hadn't picked it up or anything. And I think the second book is getting ready to come out soon. That is The Foxglove King by Hannah Whitten. I've heard a lot about it. I actually think somebody's dog like ate this book up. Like, you can see the teeth marks. Laura has been living by her wits since she was a child, running poisons for the cartel that took her in, avoiding the attention of the law, and keeping her affinity for death magic a secret. Because mortem is a rare and illicit commodity, and using it could mean death. When a job goes wrong and Laura is captured by the Sainted King's warrior monks, she expects a pyre, but King August has a different plan. Entire villages on the outskirts of the country have been dying overnight, seemingly at random. Laura can either use her magic to find out what's happening or die, and the king suspects his arrogant, handsome heir is behind it. Thrust into a lavish court where no one can be believed and even fewer can be trusted, Laura must navigate an intricate web of politics, religion, and forbidden romance and solve the king's mystery. A mystery more dangerous and twisted than Laura can even imagine. So there's two reasons why I wanted to pick this up. One, because the plot reminds me a lot of one of my current favorite YA series, Defy the Night by Bridget Kemmerer. And then this also reminds me a lot of The Book of Night by Holly Black, which I did not enjoy. I read that whole book and was so angry by the end. Like, it wasn't good. I love it when fantasy also has these slightly more modern mystery elements to it. I love political intrigue. So this was just right up my alley. So I think that this is going to end up being on my September TBR because this just has all of the things that I love, and I want to go ahead and read it before the next book comes out. Honestly, I don't even think that this is really that long. Like, it's a big book, but the pages are actually like really super duper thick. So I think it's a little bit bigger than it looks bigger than it actually is, if I'll put it that way. So The Foxglove King by Hannah Whitten. We shall see how I like it. So far, I've heard really good things. Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. This is book 2 in the Broken Earth trilogy. Me and my friend Yasmin just finished buddy reading the 5th season, and y'all, we were geeked by the time we got to the end of that book. And I can't believe so many of my theories were correct, because the way that N.K. Jemisin sets up the plot, the narrators, in a sense, are kind of unreliable, right? And so you're not really sure if what you're seeing really is what you're seeing. So I was surprised that I guessed anything, because the whole time I just felt like that book was low-key kind of calling me stupid. But it was so good. I'm not even going to try to get into the plot of this book because it's a lot, but just know that it is really, really good. I have been told that this does kind of have that little like book 2 slump kind of thing going on, but I don't care. I'm ready to find out what happened. So she is getting, she's waiting on her copy to come in, and then we're going to go ahead and start buddy reading this. So this will definitely be finished in September. And then I picked up Page Boy by Elliot Page. I have been wanting to read this for a minute. I love me some Elliot Page, okay? Love Elliot Page. I actually had this on hold on Libby. I had managed to like put it on hold and be like one of the first people in line to get it when it initially dropped. But I had so much going on, I didn't get a chance to listen to it. And when I started to actually start listening to the audiobook, they snatched it up from me like the next day. So when I went to the library, they had this sitting up front, and I said, let me just go ahead and pick this up because I can probably get through this pretty quick. Last but not least, we have House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson, and I've heard a lot of really great things about this book as well. Marion Shaw has been raised in the slums, where want and deprivation are all she knows. Despite a longing to leave the city and its misery, she has no real hope of escape until the day she spots a peculiar listing in the newspaper seeking a blood maid. Though she knows little about the far north, where wealthy nobles live in luxury and drink the blood of those in their service, Marion applies to the position. In a matter of days, she finds herself the newest blood maid at the notorious House of Hunger. There, Marion is swept into a world of debauchery. And at the center of it all is Countess Lisavette. The Countess, who presides over the hedonistic court, is loved and feared in equal measure. She takes a special interest in Marion. Lisavette is magnetic, and Marion is eager to please her new mistress. But when she discovers that the ancient walls of the House of Hunger had even older secrets, Marion is thrust into a vicious game of cat and mouse. She'll need to learn the rules of her new home, and fast, or its halls will soon become her grave. We're getting closer to spooky season and I want more spooky books. So I picked up a spooky book and so many people said that this was amazing. So I had to pick it up. All right, y'all, that is it for this installment of Book and Breakfast, our Black Author Spotlight edition. I hope you guys enjoyed it and I hope you guys are having a wonderful morning. Hopefully we will be sticking to a schedule. I have already uploaded videos for the next 2 weeks because I started a new job. It was impromptu. It was not a job that I was looking for. It was a job that I was offered and it was a convenient situation. So I took it. So I will be keeping an eye on my mama and I'm also going to be working with the kiddos and I'm really excited. I haven't done anything like this in a long time, but I'm not new to working with kids. So I'm really hyped to do this. I think it's going to be a great way for me to get out of the house because I need to get out of the house. I like working from home, but I need to get out of the house. And just kind of a stepping stone to moving on and figuring out what I want to do next. So I'm going to be busy, but I have been working really, really hard to try to get content up so that you guys are going to have things to watch and I won't have to keep having hiatuses. So yeah, I hope you guys have a lovely Saturday. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.